Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be reviewing a Bible that I actually bought myself, which is a new one for me. I've mainly been focusing on the review copies I received, but I figured I should start getting into some of the other ones that I have. So this one is the Legacy Standard Bible from Steadfast Bibles. Now this is my first Steadfast Bible full Bible edition. I did get the New Testament from them earlier this year, and I do have a video out on this, and this is probably the best New Testament that I've seen for this type of material on the market so far. So this one in the Handy Size edition comes in not a box, but what they call Bible armor. And I'll do a separate review on this. There's some things I wanted to mention about it, and I don't want to take this video into infinity. So this is the gray option. I think they have black and one other color. It has a pocket on the outside, and then your main compartment for the Bible with their logo and everything on there. I'll do a review on that one later. So here's the Bible. This one is the deep brown Shamar Goatskin. My first impression was that it's a bit smaller than I was expecting, and partly because the external yap makes it look bigger, but the overall size of this Bible is actually 8.5 inches tall, 5 3/4 inches wide, roughly, and 1 1/4 inches thick. So the overall footprint of this Bible is actually the mid-size range, even though from the looks of it, it looks bigger. And we'll do a comparison here in a minute. So this one has a very beautiful leather. There's a deeper, thicker grain at the top, which is really soft, and it's a little bit more shallow and dense at the bottom, which is a little bit stiffer, but not bad. Then it goes to your spine as well. You have a thicker grain on top, and then a more shallow grain at the bottom. And then on the back, it's a little bit thicker all the way across. Fabulous piece of leather. And you have perimeter stitching. It's a very small stitch, but it's consistent all the way around. It does have a little bit at the bottom where on the back, this is where that connected here. Get that to focus. And so it kind of sticks up a little bit there, but that's not a big deal. Then on your spine, you have 5 raised hubs. They're a little bit different than your traditional raised hubs, though. You have one at the top, Holy Bible, 2 close together, and then you have a large space in the middle, which has your LSB and their logo, which is, I'd call a harvest symbol. Legacy Standard Bible, 2 more hubs, and then Steadfast Bibles. An interesting thing about this is the Steadfast Bibles does not have their logo surrounding the name. And I'm not sure if there's significance to that, but my first thought was the Legacy Standard Bible is named so because they wanted to get rid of the American in the title to make it more universal for a Bible. And just looking at this, without having the logo on here for the publisher, you're focusing on the Bible and the translation. I'm not sure if that was an actual marketing technique or if that is just something they decided to do, but that was my initial thought on that layout. It does have a generous yap, so it's not full, although it does come very close and actually touches at the bottom corner here just because of the placement of the block within the cover, but it is a very nice, generous yap. You have kind of a gold head and tail band. It's kind of a brown gold. It's kind of hard to see in there just because of the yap. And then the interior is a brown liner, kind of a little bit darker. Obviously not as dark as the outer cover, but it is a dark brown. You do have a perimeter gilt line. The corners are excellent. And real quick, I will compare it with a Skylar because this is also printed in by Royal Youngblood in the Netherlands. And if you just take a look at these liners and the corners, they're pretty much the same. You can see how similar those liners are. It's kind of like a beach sand kind of look. And then your corners are very similar. Leather is a similar thickness as well. Skylar's a little bit thicker. But your corner work is the same type of cut and fold. So that is top-notch quality there. You do have a brown end sheet, edge lining here. Have a red under gold art gilding. It's kind of an off red. It's almost more of a coppery color. It's really pretty. Not super bright, I noticed. You do have 3 3/8-inch Beresford ribbons, double-sided satin. Kind of have all the browns on this Bible complement each other, but none of them match, which I think is cool, but it's just, I noticed that. So you have a brown, kind of a gray-brown ribbon, kind of a beige tan color, and then kind of a reddish brown. They are long enough. They're not super long, but they do stick out even with the generous yap. So if the yap is down, they do stick out a little bit more. Really like those. And then we'll get into the Bible itself. So surprisingly, there's no end or presentation pages. I find that kind of odd, considering that this is a legacy standard Bible. Maybe in some future editions they will add that, I'm not sure. But you do have 4 pages, technically 3 because of the one is glued to the tab, that you could put any kind of introduction that you want. So that is an option. Here's probably the major critique I'd have, and that's just because of this edition. It's not because of the Bible in general. And that's right here where the end sheets meet the Bible paper. It's not connected very well. And that's mainly because there was not enough glue placed there. You can see here where the glue has come undone just because it was such a little bit, and there were actually none at the bottom. So I'm just going to put a strip of glue in there, put it back together, and that will be fine after that. That's not something that I would complain about to the publisher. You could, but it's really not a structural integrity issue. It's just a glue option that they forgot to add there. So that's that. Here's your presentation page of the Bible itself, Legacy Standard Bible. This is the Handy Size edition. Here's the Steadfast Bible logo. That was not on the cover. Here's your opening page. This is Handy Size Edition, 2021, copyright by the Lockman Foundation. So if you're not familiar, the LSB is the update by the Master's Seminary of the 1995 New American Standard. Lockman endorsed this update just like the New American Standard 2020 edition. So there's the 2020 and the Legacy Standard Bible are the 2 updates to the 1995. Both supported by Lockman, so they're both going to be under the same publication copyright. The typesetting is 2K Denmark by the Royal Youngblood in the Netherlands, and this one is a November 2021 printing, so this is only just over a month old now. Then you have all your ISBN for the other print options, and then you get right into the forward to the Legacy Standard Bible. I'm not going to spend too much time on the translation itself because I'm still becoming familiar with it myself, but I do plan on reading this Bible for the next year, so I'll hopefully be able to make a video on the translation later with my thoughts. So here's your forward. It does contain the Lockman Foundation goals as well as the Legacy Standard Bible principles of translation, so you can see the connection between the two there. You have an explanation of features in this edition. So similar to the New American Standard, the LSB includes a lot of the same features as far as the different stylistic translation pieces to the Bible itself. So like you'll have personal pronouns of God are capitalized, inserted words that are actually not in the original but help explain a sentence are in italics, small caps refer to Old Testament quotations in the New Testament, and then asterisks are for words that are present tense, past tense, that kind of shift to make it more explainable in modern English. So same as the New American Standard, so if you are a New American Standard user, many of those features will be very familiar. Have your books of the Bible, Old and New Testaments. Have your opening page of the Old Testament. The Old Testament has a little design with a line here, and then Legacy Standard Bible. Then you open right up to Genesis 1. This is a 32 French milled GSM paper. It is a cream colored, so it's a little bit off-white. There is a coating to it It's not super slick, so it's still good for writing. Your type is a 9.5. I'm not sure the style of font that it is, but it's very similar to the New American Standard Comfort Print from Thomas Nelson. You have line matching, so ghosting is really minimal, even for a single column. And something I really like is the verse numbers are on the outside of the text. So instead of being inset, like this one, which is the ESV Preaching Bible, they are on the outside, which makes it easier for me to cross this over as a reader's Bible or a preaching Bible. So this one, you do have technically the numbers are in the text still. This one, they are not, which I think is very well designed because you have the difference, and you can split the difference between a preaching Bible and a reader's Bible. And the single column is very conducive for both. One thing also is the numbers are the same size as the text, which again is very nice to have. It's not hard to tell which numbers you're reading. Subject headings are included within the text. And then your chapters are in red, as well as the books of the Bible in red. And then your page and book and major chapter of the page at the top are also in red. But that's the only red accents in this Bible. As far as paragraph breaks, in the prose and narrative sections, they are broken by a dark number in your verse numbers. However, in the poetic settings, which I found very interesting, let's see if I can get to it here. Might have to go a little ways because I apparently can't find poetic sections of the Bible. You have the paragraphs divided both by the verse number in bold and by an actual break in the paragraphs itself. I'm not exactly sure why they did that, but it is helpful, especially for the poetic settings, because it can be a very run-on paragraph if you just leave it all together compared to having the text broken up like that. So I think it's a little bit more conducive to poetry for them to do that versus the prose, which is just a run-on narrative, and that as well is broken by your subject headings. So that was a textual feature that I did notice that was not advertised anywhere. You have 1-inch margins, and the paper, for being 32 GSM, it's still curls a decent amount after a little bit of use. However, it is really easy to turn, and the curling's not too big a deal for me, so I'm not worried about that. Then we go, another thing I'll mention too as well that was the same with the New Testament, and that is that new books do not begin on their own page. I'm not sure if I can find one here quickly, but I'm not a super big fan of that layout, but in the case of this kind of Bible, it does make sense because they are trying to conserve space and keep the Bible as thin as possible whilst keeping it a single column, which is admittedly difficult to do, but is not my favorite. So you have 1 Corinthians starting in the middle of the page or 2 Corinthians starting in the middle of the page, and so you can see it conserves space, but it is also a little bit different. I think the Cambridge Bibles do this. If someone has a Cambridge, you can correct me, but here again, 1 Peter starts at the beginning of a book in the middle of a page, so that is a feature to notice. And then getting to the end of the Bible, we have table of weights and measures. This is right after Revelation 22. And then you have your monetary units and then table of weights and measures. And then the one thing they did very well was they added 46 pages of dotted paper. Now, if you're going to be a note taker, not in your Bible, but in the back, and you like note paper, this is like fantastic. I'm really impressed that they did it that way. And then you have several sheets of cardstock in the end. This Bible is very minimalist. It's bare bones. There's nothing to it really except the text of Scripture itself. Now, I think that was intentional, and they did announce recently that they are coming out with a reference and footnoted edition later in the end of 2022. So I'll be looking forward to that. And if you are one of those people who've been really confused and annoyed by this one not having translator notes, they are coming out with those eventually. So be looking forward to that. And I am planning on grabbing some of the newer editions of this Bible. I'm not convinced that I'm going to use this as a everyday translation for me, but I am excited, and I do like what they've been trying to do with the Legacy Standard Bible. So my plan is to follow the production of this edition as they come out with new stuff, whether it's premium editions or not, just to kind of trace the progression of this translation. So I'll pull this back in so you kind of can see the two things there. And might as well just top it off with the New Testament. And by the way, this will be in my video for the cover, but your New Testament does go in the pocket. So this is my a review of the Legacy Standard Bible, Shamar Goatskin Deep Brown, and thanks for watching. And obviously this will probably come out in the new year, so Happy New Year, and God bless.